Jake Matthews shoved his graduation cap and gown to the back of his closet, where they could collect dust alongside all his other high school memories. The tassel caught on a wire hanger, and he yanked it free with a little more force than necessary. "Jake, you coming down for breakfast?" His mother's voice echoed up the stairs. "Yeah, just a sec," he called back, shutting the closet door on his past through his bedroom window. He spotted Mrs. Cobb across the street arguing with her Terrian gardener about proper hedge trimming techniques. The alien's translucent skin flashed red with frustration as Mrs. Croft demonstrated the correct earth technique, for the fifth time just another day in Riverview, where interspecies misunderstandings were as common. A summer rain. Jake grabbed his guitar from its stand and picked out a few chords. The music wasn't quite there yet, but he had all summer to work on it before classes started at Riverview Community College. His biggest concern should have been finding a decent used amp on his budget, not the fact that his mother kept accidentally leaving college brochures for places more than 20 miles from home. The aroma of pancakes finally lured him downstairs. Sandra Matthews stood at the stove flipping perfect golden discs while humming along to the radio on the screen of her tablet. The local news displayed preparations for the afternoon's Summer Solstice Festival, or as it had been renamed, after First Contact Interstellar Unity Day, "There's my graduate." She slid a plate stacked with pancakes in front of him as he sat down. "Plans for today?" Jake drowned his breakfast in syrup, meeting Zach at the skate park, then checking out that new music store downtown. "They've got a used Fender I might be able to afford if I pick up some extra shifts at Burger Galaxy." Sandra smiled and brushed her graying hair back from her face. "Could you be home by 6? I'm making your favorite for dinner. It's not every day. My son graduates high school. Mom graduation was 3 days ago. You've made my favorite every night since. Sue me for being proud." She refilled his orange juice. "Besides, the festival fireworks should be visible from our backyard. I thought we could watch them together." Jake suppressed an eye roll. "Fine, but if Zach wants to hang out later." Speaking of the festival, Sandra interrupted her attention, captured by the news broadcast showing footage of arriving alien dignitaries. "It reminds me of Talara. She loved Earth celebrations." Jake paused, mid-bite. "The purple lady from your old photos?" "Purple lady?" Sandra laughed. "She was one of the highest-ranking Sile-wretched diplomats assigned to Earth, and one of my best friends back when you were just a baby." Jake vaguely recalled seeing photos, a tall, elegant, alien woman, with vibrant violet skin holding an infant version of himself in every picture. She gazed at baby Jake with an expression he couldn't quite define. "She used to say the funniest thing," Sandra continued, a nostalgic smile playing on her lips. "Every time she'd visit, she'd look at you in your crib and announce, 'When he reaches maturity, I shall make him my mate.' Always so dramatic." Jake choked on his orange juice. "She what? Oh, it was just her alien humor, different cultural norms and all that." Sandra waved dismissively. "She had to return Tasselret for some crucial diplomatic mission when you were about 6. I haven't seen her in person since, though. We exchanged messages for a few years after, and she'd joke about marrying Mirlac. She was just fond of you." Sandra collected his empty plate. "She never had children of her own. Something about Syl ready and reproductive cycles being complicated anyway. I doubt we'll ever see her again. She's probably busy negotiating interstellar peace treaties or whatever it is. High-ranking diplomats." Jake nodded absently, already plotting his escape, right? "Well, I'm meeting Zach in 20, so go on. Just be back by 6, okay?" The skate park buzzed with activity. As Jake arrived, his board tucked under one arm, Zach lounged on a bench, his lanky frame sprawled artlessly across the metal slats. "Dude, you see the ships coming in?" Zach sat up, pointing skyward. "Some serious alien hardware up there. Festival's going to be lit." Jake dropped his board and stepped on, rolling back and forth. "My mom's going full nostalgia mode. Kept talking about some alien diplomat she knew when I was a baby. Was it that hot purple chick in the photos at your house?" Zach grinned, "The one holding baby." "You don't be weird." Jake kicked his board up. "Let's hit the half-pipe before it gets crowded." 3 hours and several failed kickflip attempts. Later, Jake and Zach collapsed on the grass, watching as more ships descended toward the festival ground. "Shay, check that one out." Zach pointed to a sleek, iridescent vessel cutting through the clouds, unlike the other utilitarian transports. This one resembled a liquid metal teardrop, catching sunlight and refracting it in prismatic bursts. "Sweet ride." Jake squinted against the glare. Probably some VIP. We should go see who it is. Zach was already standing brushing grass from his jeans festivals starting soon. Anyway, I told my mom I'd be home by 6. It's only 3 old man live. A little Riverview's central square had transformed overnight. Floating light orbs hovered over colorful booths, where humans and aliens showcased cultural exchanges. Food vendors offered everything, from classic corn dogs to gelatinous Arcturan delicacies that pulsated uncomfortably on their plates. The iridescent ship had landed in the VIP section, drawing a crowd of onlookers and several official-looking humans. Informal attire, Jake and Zach lingered at the edge of the gathering as a ramp extended from the vessel side. $10 says it's another boring ambassador, Zach whispered. You're on, Jake replied. The figure that emerged silenced them both, standing nearly 7 feet tall. She moved with liquid grace, her violet skin shimmering beneath the sunlight. Her body, sleek and athletic, was draped in a form-fitting dress that seemed woven from starlight itself, material shifting between opacity and transparency. With each movement, her face, with its high cheekbones and large almond-shaped eyes that shifted from silver to lavender, registered as both alien and breathtakingly beautiful. Holy shit. Zach's jaw hung open. Is that? No way, Jake muttered. But it was. The purple lady from his baby photos had returned, though the images hadn't done her justice. She smiled politely as local officials rushed forward to greet her, bowing slightly. As protocol demanded, Ambassador Tiliara. The mayor gushed, "We are honored by your unexpected presence at our humble celebration. The honor is mine," she replied, her voice melodic with an undercurrent of authority. I have personal business in Riverview. Jake grabbed Zach's arm. We should go, are you? Insane, she's smoking hot. She's also apparently my mom's weird friend who used to joke about marrying me. Zach snorted. Dude, seriously, my mom told me this morning it was some alien joke, but still wait. Zach's eyes widened. She's looking this way. Jake's heart stuttered as Tiliara's gaze swept the crowd and locked onto him. Recognition flashed in her silver lavender eyes, followed by something that sent a jolt through his nervous system. She smiled, a slow, deliberate curving of lips that revealed pearlescent teeth, and excused herself from the officials. She's coming over, Zach hissed. She's actually coming over. Shut up, Jake muttered, frozen in place as Tiliara approached. She moved through the crowd with predatory elegance, humans and aliens alike, stepping back to clear her path. When she stood before Jake, he realized she towered over him by at least a foot. Up close, he could see subtle patterns shifting beneath her violet skin, like living tattoos responding to her emotions. Jake Matthews, she said, her voice sending vibrations through his chest. You've grown. Jake stared dumbly. Yeah, that's what humans do. Her laugh was like crystal bells. Indeed, and you've done it exceptionally well. Her gaze swept him from head to toe, lingering, in a way that made his face burn. You have your mother's eyes, but your father's jaw, an appealing combination. Zach cleared his throat loudly. Oh, Jake started. This is my friend Zach. Tiliara acknowledged him with a slight nod before returning her full attention to Jake. I've been monitoring your development from afar. Sandra has been most generous with updates and photographs. My mom's been sending you pictures of me. Jake's voice cracked, embarrassingly, until approximately 4 Earth years ago, when her communications became less frequent. A ripple of something disappointment passed beneath Tiliara's skin. However, the Galactic Records Office has been most helpful in confirming your recent graduation. In subsequent achievement of majority status, Jake blinked. You've been checking up on me through alien bureaucracy. Naturally, she reached into a pocket-like fold in her dress and withdrew an iridescent tablet. With a few elegant gestures, she transferred data to a document that materialized in the air between them. You have reached the age of consensual union, she announced, her voice both musical and authoritative. I have filed the necessary paperwork with the Ministry of Marriages of the 13 Systems. Her expression softened, becoming almost playful. I hope you still favor the color purple and me. Jake stared at the floating document, incomprehension giving way to dawning horror. Wait, what? Beside him, Zach coughed violently, disguising what sounded suspiciously like laughter. I realize this may seem sudden to you, Tiliara continued. though I assure you it has been meticulously planned for precisely 17 Earth years, 3 months and 14 days. The document rotated slowly in. The air Jake caught phrases like interspecies union and diplomatic accord of highest priority. You can't be serious. He finally managed. I am always serious about matters of personal commitment. Jake Matthews. She reached out one long violet finger. Gently touching his cheek, her skin was warmer than human temperature, sending electricity crackling through his nerves. Though I am quite capable of playfulness in other contexts. Zach Medea, choking sound. Jake stepped back. Look, there's been some misunderstanding. My mom said you were joking about this. A common human error, Tilara interrupted smoothly, interpreting literal Cillian statements as attempts at humor. I was quite explicit with Sandra regarding my intentions. Your intentions to marry me when I was a baby, to claim you as my mate once you achieve maturity. Yes, she tilted her head, it's a great honor. I've declined 17 marriage proposals from high-ranking officials across the 13 systems while awaiting your maturation. Several local officials had drifted closer, listening with undisguised interest. The mayor stepped forward with a nervous cough. Ambassador, Tilara. Perhaps we should discuss the logistics of your stay. We weren't expecting I will be residing with the Matthews. Family as previously arranged, Tilara stated, her tone. Brooking no argument previously arranged. Jake sputtered. I sent notification 3 standard months ago. The alien diplomat tapped something on her wrist device. Sandra Matthews acknowledged receipt and expressed enthusiasm for my visit. The mayor's face flushed. Well, that seems to be in order. Then we certainly wouldn't want to cause any, diplomatic incidents with our Cillian friends. He patted Jake awkwardly on the shoulder. Congratulations. On your engagement, I'm not engaged. The human custom of engagement is unnecessary. Tilara explained the formal union registration has already been submitted. We are now in the customary acclimation period before the binding ceremony. Before Jake could protest further, his phone buzzed in his pocket. He fumbled it out to find 6 missed calls and a text from his mother. Where are you? There's an alien woman at our door saying she's moving in. Oh God, Jake muttered, showing the phone to Zach. Dude, Zach whispered, you're so screwed. Or about to be. Not helping, Jake hissed. Tilara smiled serenely. Shall we proceed to your residence? My atmospheric acclimation period is complete. But I find Earth gravity somewhat taxing after extended space travel, as if on Q3 floating pods detached from her ship and hovered toward them. Luggage, Jake realized with growing dread. I need to talk to my mom, he said desperately. Of course, Tilara gestured, gracefully. After you. By the time Jake arrived home, chaos had erupted. Sandra Matthews stood in the front yard, arms crossed, facing off against a small contingent of alien luggage pods that bobbed impatiently at her doorstep. Jacob Allen Matthews, she called when she spotted him. What is going on? I was hoping you could tell me, he replied, breathless from running. The pods perked up at his approach, recognizing him somehow, and began floating toward the door again. Sandra blocked their path. These things showed up 20 minutes ago trying to get inside. Then I got a notification that a diplomatic envoy was en route to our address. That would be me, Kame's melodious voice as she glided up the walkway. Hello, Sandra, you look well considering human aging processes? Sandra's mouth fell open. Tilara, but I thought you were Anselret. I was. Tilara embraced Sandra with formal precision until Jake's maturation necessitated my return. Sandra's gaze darted between them. His maturation, her eyes widened in sudden comprehension. Oh no, 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 no. You weren't actually serious about the mating declaration? Of course I was. Tilara looked puzzled. I've never understood why you found it humorous. Jake stepped between them. Mom, did you really give her permission to stay here? I got an email about a diplomatic visit. Sandra protested. It didn't say anything about mating declarations. Tilara consulted her wrist device again. I believe the Earth translation may have rendered it as personal diplomatic engagement of permanent nature. I thought it was about cultural exchange or something. A sleek transport pulled up to the curb and 2 official-looking humans in dark suits emerged. They approached with practice formality. Mrs. Matthews, Jake Matthews, I'm Agent Davis, Earth Diplomatic Corps. The taller one flashed credentials. We're here to ensure Ambassador Talara's accommodations meet with interstellar diplomatic protocols. This is insane. Jake muttered. We understand this is unexpected, said the second agent. A woman with a tight bun, but I need to stress the importance of maintaining positive relations with Silret. The ambassador's personal diplomatic status is especially significant. Talara smiled benignly. My quarters need not be elaborate. The guest room Sandra showed me years ago will suffice, although my personal atmospheric regulator will require access to your home's power grid. Jake watched, in helpless disbelief, as the agents ushered them all inside the luggage pods, bobbing eagerly behind. Within minutes, Tiliara had gracefully claimed the guest room, her strange devices unpacking themselves, while government agents installed power adapters and security measures in the kitchen. Jake cornered his mother. We have to do something. I'm trying to understand what's happening. Sandra whispered frantically. When she used to talk about making you her mate, I thought it was just, I don't know, alien baby talk, like how humans coo over cute babies and say silly things. Well, she wasn't joking, Jake hissed, and now she's got paperwork. Agent Davis cleared his throat from the doorway. Mrs. Matthews, Mr. Matthews, if I could have a moment. They followed him into the living room where he unfolded a holographic display. I've been authorized to brief you on certain aspects of the situation. He lowered his voice. Ambassador Talara is not just any diplomat. She's a member of the Silridian High Council and key architect of the Third Interstellar Accord, so Jake demanded. So Agent Davis continued. Patiently, her personal requests carry significant diplomatic weight. The treaty she helped draft includes a subsection on personal diplomatic arrangements. Essentially, provisions for interspecies relationships involving high-ranking officials. He highlighted a section of fine print that expanded in the air. Jake squinted at the dense legalese. In summary, Davis explained refusing her marriage proposal without proper justification under Section 47B could be interpreted as an insult to Silret, potentially triggering a review of Earth's standing in the galactic community. Are you saying I have to marry her or cause an interplanetary incident? Jake's voice rose an octave. Davis winced. Not exactly. There were procedures, appeals processes, but they're complex. In the meantime, we're asking for your cooperation. During the acclimation period from the guest room came the sound of alien music, crystalline tones. That made the windows vibrate slightly. Tiliara appeared in the doorway now, dressed in a more casual outfit that somehow made her look even more striking. I hope you don't mind, she said, eyes fixed on Jake. I've brought traditional Cillian pair bonding melodies to help establish our residence. Jake stared at her, then at the government agents, then at his mother. The realization crashed over him like ice water. His peaceful post-graduation summer had just been obliterated by interstellar matrimonial politics. I need some air, he muttered, pushing past them all toward the front door. Jake, wait, his mother called after him, but he was already gone, racing down the street as twilight descended, desperate to escape the alien fiancé who had claimed him from across the stars. Jake's sneakers slapped against the pavement as he ran, putting as much distance as possible between himself and the alien fiancé who had descended from the stars to claim him. Night had fallen. By the time he reached Zach's house, sweat-soaked and out of breath, Zach answered the door with a bag of chips in one hand. Dude, I've been texting you for hours. His grin faltered at Jake's expression. Oh, purple lady problems. I need to crash here. Jake gasped, pushing past his friend. Just for a few days. My parents are in Toronto until Tuesday. Zach said, following Jake to the living room. What happened? Jake collapsed onto the couch. Government agents installed alien tech in my house, apparently. If I don't go along with this acclimation period, I might cause an interstellar diplomatic crisis. Harsh. Zach tossed him the bag of chips, but also kind of awesome. I mean, she's hot in that scary alien way. She's not hot, she's intimidating. Jake stuffed a handful of chips into his mouth. And old. She knew me as a baby, for God's sake. How old are? Anyway, like in comparison to humans, I don't know. Jake groaned. Do I look like an alien biology expert? Zach grabbed his laptop. Let's find out. For the next 3 hours, they fell down an internet rabbit hole of interstellar treaties, Silton biology, and legal precedents for interspecies unions. Jake's desperation grew with each new tab they opened. Listen to this, Zach said, eyes glued to the screen. Sile Redian's experience. a biological bonding cycle called Telm-Kasher, approximately once every 70 Earth years after reaching full maturity at 100 years old. Wait, she's over 100, dude. She's probably like 200. But it says here they age differently. Their biological equivalent of a 25-year-old human lasts for decades. Jake buried his face in his hands. Great. I'm being stalked by a cradle-bing alien cougar. There's more. Zach scrolled down during the Telm-Kasher cycle. Sildians must establish a permanent psychophysiological bond with a compatible partner or risk severe neurological deterioration. He whistled heavy stuff. So what if I don't marry her? She'll get sick. Maybe worse than sick. And check this out. The Section 47B your government dude mentioned it's specifically about respecting alien biological imperatives in diplomatic contexts. Zach grimaced. Sorry, man, but legally speaking, you might actually be screwed. Jake's phone vibrated with another text from his mother. Please come home, we need to talk about this. I'm not going back there tonight, Jake muttered, tossing the phone aside. Cool by me, Zach said. Want to play Galactic Warfare? I just got the new DLC with actual Silwretchen battlecruisers. Jake glared at him too soon. Morning light streamed through Zach's living room window. Jolting Jake awake from a dream involving purple hands and floating paperwork, he checked his phone. 17 missed calls from his mother, and one text message from an unknown number that simply read, I await your return, bondmate. How the hell did she get my number? Jake muttered. Zach stumbled down the stairs, hair sticking up in all directions. Any alien invasion updates? She texted me. Jake showed him the message. Persistent. Zach yawned. You can't hide here forever. You know I'm not hiding, I'm strategizing. Right, well, strategy, boy. I'm out of food and my mom will kill me if there's nothing in the fridge when they get back. Jake sighed, knowing he'd run out of options. Fine, I'll go home and deal with whatever this is. The walk back to his house gave Jake time to rehearse what he'd say to Tiliara. He'd be firm but diplomatic. Explain that humans didn't form lifelong bonds at 18. Thank her for her interest, but declined. Politely. Maybe suggest they could be friends instead. His thoughts screeched to a halt as he turned onto his street. His ordinary suburban home was still there. But the backyard had changed. Radiant plants of impossible colors spilled over the fence, emitting a soft glow. Even in daylight, strange crystalline structures caught the sunlight, refracting it into prismatic patterns across the lawn. Their next-door neighbor, Mr. Peterson, stood frozen with his garden hose, staring slack-jawed over the fence. Morning, Mr. Peterson, Jake called weakly. Your yard's glowing, the man replied, not taking his eyes off the alien flora. New landscaping. Jake hurried to his front door before the neighbor could ask more questions inside. The house smelled of unfamiliar spices, sweet and earthy with an electric undertone that tickled his nose. Music played softly, those same crystalline tones he'd heard yesterday, but now accompanied by what sounded like was that Led Zeppelin. Jake followed the sounds to the kitchen where he froze. In the doorway, Tiliara stood at the stove, her tall figure draped in what appeared to be one of his mother's aprons over her alien attire. Her violet skin seemed to pulse with subtle patterns as she stirred something in a floating container, not touching the pot but manipulating it with graceful gestures from a few inches away on the counter beside her. His mother's old radio played Stairway to Heaven. You've returned, Tiliara said without turning around. Your maternal guardian was concerned. Where's my mom? Sandra left for her employment approximately 42 minutes ago. She requested that I inform you she expects a full explanation. Tonight, Tiara finally turned, those silver lavender eyes locking onto his asdo. Jake swallowed hard up close in the morning light. She was even more striking. Then he remembered the patterns beneath her skin shifted like living circuitry, and her hair, if that's what it was, floated slightly around her head as if suspended in invisible water. I needed time to think, he said, a reasonable response to significant change. She gestured to the floating pot. I have prepared a traditional Sridian morning sustenance. It's compatible with human digestion. I'm not hungry, untrue. Your stomach emitted audible signals upon your entry as if on cue. Jake's stomach growled traitorously. Fine. He sat at the kitchen table watching wearily. Astiliara served a bowl of what looked like blue oatmeal, With floating amber spheres, it smelled surprisingly good, like cinnamon and vanilla, with a hint of something unidentifiable. It's called nari, she explained, similar to your earth oats, but with enhanced nutritional properties. Jake reluctantly took a bite. Flavor exploded in his mouth, comfort and warmth, and home somehow despite its alien origin. The floating spheres burst with a citrusy sweetness when his teeth broke their surface. This is, he hesitated. Not terrible high praise from a reluctant bondmate. Was that sarcasm in her voice? Jake looked up to find Tiliara watching him with an expression he couldn't quite read about that he began on Earth. We don't typically get engaged to someone we just met. We have not just met. I held you approximately 6 hours after your birth. I observed your first attempts at bipedal locomotion. I witnessed your first word, which was no. A flicker of amusement crossed her features. Prophetic, perhaps. Jake set down his spoon. Look, I appreciate that you've monitored me or whatever, but I don't know you and you don't know me. Incorrect. I know you enjoy music, particularly compositions with complex string arrangements. You prefer purple carbonated beverages, despite their lack of nutritional value. You sleep on your left side. You achieve satisfactory academic results despite minimal effort, and you harbor concerns about fitting in at your chosen educational institution. Jake stared at her. Have you been spying on me? I have been attentive to information shared by Sandra. And yes, I may have accessed certain databases to supplement my knowledge. She tilted her head. Is that not standard courtship protocol to learn about one's intended bondmate? No, I mean, yes, people get to know each other, but through talking and spending time together, not surveillance. I see Tiliara appeared too. Consider this, then I propose we engage in this talking ritual. Ask me anything you wish. Jake blinked, caught off guard by her directness. Okay, why me? There must be plenty of Cillians who'd want to bond with you. 17 have formally requested permission to court me. As I mentioned yesterday, all were denied. But why choose a human? Why choose me? Tiliara's skin rippled with subtle patterns. The first time I held you, you grabbed my finger and refused to release it. Your developing brain produced exceptionally harmonious neural patterns in my presence. Such natural compatibility is rare and valued in my culture. She paused. Also, I find your species intriguing. You are chaotic, emotional, unpredictable, yet capable of remarkable creativity and adaptation. So I'm some kind of science experiment to you. If I merely sought air search subject, I would not have initiated a permanent bonding process. Her expression softened fractionally. Your temperament complements mine. Your presence eases something in me that I cannot fully articulate in your language. Jake pushed away from the table. I need to see what you did to our backyard. Tiliara accepted the change of subject with a nod. I hope the alterations meet with your approval. Alterations. Mr. Peterson looked like he was about to call the National Guard. He stepped through the back door and stopped short. What had appeared impressive from the street was breathtaking up close. Luminous, plants in shades of violet, azure, and silver created winding paths through what had been their ordinary lawn. Crystal formations rose from the ground like transparent sculptures, humming faintly when the wind brushed them in. The center stood a pavilion, made of some material that seemed both solid and fluid, its roof open to the sky. What is all this? Jake whispered. A small remembrance of home, Tiliara said, coming to stand beside him. The flora are non-invasive symbiotic species designed to harmonize with Earth's biosphere. They convert carbon dioxide to oxygen at 3 times the efficiency of your native plants. Jake approached one of the crystal formations, which brightened as he neared it. And these resonance crystals, they respond to emotional and neural patterns. She reached past him, her arm brushing his, and touched the crystal. It flared, brilliantly emitting a sound like distant wind chimes. See, they recognize complementary energies. Jake pulled his hand back as if burned. You can't just transform our yard into an alien landscape. What will the neighbors think? Your neighbor with the water dispersal device seemed quite fascinated. That's not the point. You can't just. Jake gestured wildly at the transformed space. This is exactly what I'm talking about. You make these huge decisions without considering what I might want. What do you want? Jake Matthews. Tiliara asked, her voice suddenly quiet. The question caught him off guard. What did he want before yesterday? He'd had it all figured out. Community college, music, a normal life now. I want to be left alone, he said finally. I want my normal life back. I see something flickered beneath Tiliara's skin. A rapid pulsing that faded as quickly as it appeared. Then perhaps you should see what awaits in your normal life before making your final decision. She gestured toward the house where his mother had just pulled into the driveway, another vehicle, sleek black and obviously government issue, parked behind her. What now? Jake groaned. Sandra hurried into the backyard, stopping abruptly when she saw the transformation. Oh my God, Mrs. Matthews, called a stern voice. A tall, gaunt alien with gray-blue skin and an elaborate uniform stepped into view. Unlike Tiliara's fluid movements, this alien moved with rigid precision, each step measured and deliberate. I am Vortex Senior, adjudicator of the Galactic Consulate Matrimonial Division. Tiara straightened her demeanor, shifting from conversational to formal adjudicator. We were not expecting your presence for another solar cycle. Circumstances have accelerated. The timeline Vortex gaze fixed on Jake. Is this the human specimen? This is Jake Matthews, Tiliara corrected, a hint of steel entering her voice. My chosen bondmate. H. Vortex circled Jake as if inspecting livestock physically. Underdeveloped by Cillian standards. But I suppose that's to be expected from their species. Hey. Jake protested. His neural capacity is exceptional, Tiliara said firmly, and compatibility is not measured by physical stature. Vortex produced a device similar to Tiliara's tablet. The consulate requires confirmation that you have informed the human of the Telm Kashar protocols and consequences. Tiliara's skin pulsed rapidly. I was approaching that subject with appropriate cultural sensitivity. Approaching the cycle has already begun. Observe. Vortex gestured at Tiliara's skin where the patterns had intensified. Phase 1 manifestation is evident. What's a Telmasher? Sandra asked nervously. Vortex fixed his unblinking gaze on her. Your offspring has not been informed. Isher highly irregular. He turned to Jake. The Telm Kashar is a biological imperative experienced by mature Sredian's ambassador. Tiliara has entered her first cycle, a period during which she must establish a permanent neurophysiological bond with a compatible partner. We found that online, Jake said. What happens if she doesn't? Neural deterioration leading to eventual cognitive dissolution, Vortex stated flatly in diplomatic terms. It would be most unfortunate if a high-ranking Silretian ambassador were to suffer such a fate due to human rejection. That sounds like a threat, Sandra said. An observation of biological fact, Vortex corrected. Should Jake Matthews decline the union, the Silreti High Council has arranged an alternative pairing with Drex Vora of the Scaleless Confederation. Tiara's skin flashed violently. Drex Vora is politically motivated and physiologically incompatible yet willing. Vortex countered. The alliance would strengthen interstellar relations with the Scaleless systems at what cost? Tiliara's voice had taken on a dangerous edge. Jake looked between the two aliens, feeling like a pawn in some cosmic chess game. Don't I get any say in this? Of course, Vortex said. You may accept or decline, but you must formalize your decision. Within 3 Earth rotations, the ambassador's cycle progresses rapidly. 3 days. Jake sputtered. That's insane. Sandra stepped forward. This isn't fair to either of them. Tiliara, you should have been more clear about all this. I was clear, Tiliara said. Quietly. From the first time I held him, I stated my intentions. You chose to interpret my declarations as humorous. Sandra's face flushed. I never thought you were serious about actually marrying my baby. Mom. Jake protested. I requested updates on his development, Tiliara continued. I sent traditional pre-bonding gifts on his birth date each cycle. I filed the necessary documentation with both your government and mine. Those weird purple crystals you said were diplomatic courtesies. Sandra looked stricken. Those were engagement gifts. The resonance shards, yes, traditionally given to the family of ones, intended to harmonize energetic fields prior to bonding. Jake's head spun. So all this time you've been engaged to me since I was a baby. The formal process could not begin until you reached your age of consent, Tiller explained. But yes, I declared my intent. When you were an infant, your neural patterns registered immediate compatibility with mine, a rarity that transcends species. This is messed up, Jake, muttered. Vort checked his device. The consulate requires your preliminary response now. Human, will you consider the union? Or shall I initiate the alternative arrangements with the scalous diplomat? Before Jake could answer his phone chimed, he pulled it out mechanically, glad for even a moment's distraction. The text made his blood run cold. Surprise back from Europe early. Outside your house right now. Why is there an alien limo in your driveway? Melissa. Jake looked up to see his ex-girlfriend still. Technically his girlfriend when she left for her gap year adventure 10 months ago. Standing at the garden gate staring wide-eyed at the assembled group. Jake! Melissa called, her voice uncertain. What's going on? Tiliara turned toward the newcomer, her skin rippling with rapid patterns. Who is this human female? Oh God, Jake groaned. This day just keeps getting better. Jake, seriously, what's happening? Melissa stepped into the transformed garden, her backpacker's tan contrasting with her wide eyes. Your yard is glowing, and who are these people? Melissa, this is, Jake began. I am Ambassador Talara of Silrit. Reed interrupted, her voice carrying an undercurrent Jake hadn't heard before. Jake's intended mate, his what? Melissa's voice rose an octave. And I said, Vortex stiffly, am the official adjudicator of their union. You are interrupting a formal proceeding. Melissa looked at Jake, bewilderment giving way to something harder. You're marrying an alien. I've been gone less than a year. It's not... Didn't... Jake stammered. You could have at least texted me before getting engaged to it. The situation is complex, Talara said, stepping between them as she moved. Jake noticed faint luminescence breaking through her skin, like the patterns had intensified enough to emit light. But I assure you the compatibility is genuine. Compatibility? Melissa scoffed. You don't know the first thing about him. I know his favorite earth composition is Bohemian Rhapsody. I know he sleeps with one foot uncovered. I know he prefers sunrise to sunset, but rarely wakes early enough to see either. Melissa blinked in surprise, then turned to Jake. You told her all that? She's been stalking me. Jake muttered, observing Talara corrected the luminescent patterns beneath her skin, pulsing faster. There is a significant difference. Vortex stepped forward, scanning. Tiliara with his device, the cycle accelerates. We require an answer. Human, will you accept the preliminary bond to stabilize the ambassador's condition? What does that even mean? Jake demanded a temporary neural connection. Tiliara explained, her voice strained to slow the progression while you consider the permanent union. Jake noticed her hands trembling slightly, the light beneath her skin now clearly visible, even in daylight. Are you okay? Ambassador Talara is experiencing phase 2. Symptoms. Vortex said clinically neural regulation becomes difficult at this stage. Decision time is critical. This is ridiculous. Melissa snapped. Jake, you can't seriously be considering this. I don't know what I'm considering. Jake shouted, the pressure of the moment. Finally, breaking his composure. 24 hours ago, I was a normal guy with normal plans now. I've got alien bureaucrats, a transformed backyard, and apparently if I don't agree to at least a preliminary bond, a galactic diplomat might suffer brain damage. So excuse me if I'm a little overwhelmed. Silence fell over the garden. Even the resonance crystals had gone quiet. Jake, Sandra said gently, Noon can force you to do this, can't they? He gestured at Vortex. What was that? About interstellar incidents if I refuse? There are diplomatic ramifications, Vortex admitted, but the choice remains. Yours. Jake looked at Tiliara. The composed, confident diplomat from yesterday was gone, replaced by someone fighting for control, as her body betrayed her despite everything. He felt a pang of something, not quite sympathy, not quite attraction, something in between. 3 days, he said. Finally, you said I have 3 days to decide. Technically, yes, Vortex replied, though the ambassador's condition will deteriorate rapidly without preliminary stabilization, and this preliminary bond, it's not permanent. It creates a temporary neural link. Tiliara explained, her voice steadier now. That a decision seemed imminent. It would allow me to regulate the Telmkashar symptoms, while you consider the full union, and if I ultimately say no, the link would be severed. It would be